Madam Chancellor. I'm very pleased to assist to your first press conference since your nomination. After we define your approach to strategies and policy of BOM, is it one of continuity or new approach?
Thank you. Sorry, maybe I should have indicated, since this is my first press conference and I don't know many of you, or I know very few of you, maybe if you could state your name and affiliation, and then I can answer.
Yes, I'm Jean-Marc Boucher from Banque de Maurice.
Thank you very much. So thank you for your question. My overall approach is to actually build on and consolidate the foundations where they are strong, and where changes are needed, then I will discuss with and consult with my management colleagues and the teams in the Banque of Mauritius to actually implement these changes. So in terms of the strategy, as it relates to monetary policy, as we discussed today, the approach is a prudent wait-and-see approach. The key rate remains unchanged, and that is very similar to the decision. It's the same decision that was taken at the last MPC meeting. But the decision was taken on the basis of the data that we have throughout the year. So since the last MPC meeting, there have been some additional data points that have come in. We have had some additional insights on the effects of the tariffs, the potential effects of tensions. We have a different appreciation of risk. So even though the decision on monetary policy is the same, it is based on a rigorous approach that is data dependent, as I mentioned, but that is also grounded in the analysis of the outlook, what we can expect going forward, and the risks.
And from the Express, in line with what the colleague has just said, of the period of leadership transition, how do you intend to strengthen the bank's credibility and transparency?
Thank you for the question. So indeed, there has been a transition in leadership. I am very fortunate that it hasn't been a complete transition. I still have the first deputy governor who is the institutional memory in some way, and a very experienced also second deputy governor. So the transition has been smooth. In terms of strengthening the credibility, we have in place, for the monetary policy decisions, we have in place a well-defined framework. We intend to communicate very clearly our decisions on policies, and we intend to, again, in the logic of continuity with some of the good practices, to communicate regularly with different stakeholders so that we can also understand what are the constraints, what are some of the risks and the perspectives from our key stakeholders to ensure that the policies that we put in place are appropriate.
Right now, what is the amount of excess of liquidity in the banking system?
So we are, as I mentioned in my statement, we are actually looking at excess liquidity and using our monetary policy tools to mop up this excess liquidity. So the figures that I gave, so let me just find the figures here.
The figures on the issuance of BOM bills.
Yes, indeed. So let me find the figures, because now I have... So we have issued, since the last MPC meeting, a total amount of 34 billion rupees in BOM bills, and we have redeemed an amount of 40.5 billion rupees. So that's for BOM bills. Right? And as of Monday, 10th of November, the total amount of outstanding BOM securities, including BOM bills, issued for liquidity management purposes was 65.2 billion rupees. Now, we use as well the overnight deposit facility, that's another monetary policy instrument, and the average amount that was placed during the period 13th of August to 10th of November, so really since the last MPC, was 55 billion rupees, and the rate was 3% on this.
Commissioner Govind from Bloomberg News. So during your deliberation earlier today, has your team and the MPC members considered cutting rates next year? Because the growth is at one of the slowest pace for quite a while now. So is the MPC, or has the MPC considered cutting the rates to support economy?
So as part of the data-driven approach, we have to wait for the data to decide for next year's interest rate decisions. However, as part of the deliberations, we carefully reviewed the risks to, on one hand, the global economy and the domestic economy. And as I highlighted, there are a number of downside risks to growth for both the global economy and the domestic economy. So that's one part of the equation, however. Given our mandate of price stability, we also have to monitor very carefully what is happening with inflation and prices. On the basis of the data that we have observed, and we are now really reaching to the end of 2025, it looks like we are being helped by the developments in the commodity markets globally, which are contributing to lower inflation. This doesn't mean that we can rest on our laurels and hope that inflation will come down. As I mentioned as well, core inflation is still a little bit high. So we have to take into account the data, whether this global commodity price decline will persist into next year, or whether, unfortunately, the upside risk to inflation may pick up, in which case we'll have to reassess what is the correct decision on interest rates in 2026.
On the international and regional environment front, do you apprehend the effect of the Rabat-Teranga affair, which is making the headlines in Mauritius, not in Mauritius, but on international media too? Do you apprehend the effect of this affair on the perception and the image of our financial services in Mauritius?
So I cannot comment on the specifics of the Rabat-Teranga case, but certainly what we can do at our level, at the level of the bank, but also at the level of the country, is to really reassure investors and our partners in other jurisdictions that we are doing all we can to preserve the reputation of Mauritius, that we have in place sound regulatory and supervisory frameworks.
After a period where the dollar has depreciated against major currencies and it regained forces against the rupee, as you just said, what can we expect for this last semester according to the exchange rate between the rupee and the dollar, as the Fed has recently revised the US rates and taking into consideration the different intervention of the BOM on the FX market here?
So the rupee-dollar exchange rate reflects a combination of factors. So first of all, it reflects the demand and supply conditions on the market. And you rightly pointed out that the Bank of Mauritius has intervened during the year. Typically, we intervene when there was pressure in the market. So, for example, in the first half of the year, around June, when there was strong demand for FX. And also now we're seeing a little bit of a pickup because we are heading towards the end of the year, and that's the time where there's an increase in the imports of goods. So that's on the one hand. On the other hand, you also have, as you mentioned, the decisions by the major central banks, and in this case, the Federal Reserve. We have had a rate cut in October. We do not know, it's not clear what the next interest rate decision of the Fed will be. So the jury is still out there. But what can make a difference in this case is the differential between the interest rate on the dollar and the rupee. And so for now, this interest rate is positive, which tends to support or at least prevent further depreciation of the rupee.
Has the central bank defined a kind of range where you can expect where the central bank will be happy to see the rupee versus the dollar or versus a basket of import currencies?
This is a question that I cannot answer.
How, Emmanuel, I do formulate the one. How did the central bank will manage the shortage of dollar and other currency on the market? Because there is at least since the beginning of the year, 60 million of dollars has been injected to commercial banks. How will we manage till the end? Because we are in the peak season.
So the central bank the Banque de Maurice has already started engaging very closely with all economic stakeholders. It is monitoring very closely the situation on the FX market. And as mentioned, when necessary, the central bank has intervened in order to alleviate the pressures on the market. I should add that compared to last year, on the basis of the numbers that we're seeing, there has been an improvement in the flows. So the problem of FX shortages hasn't completely gone away, but it is, compared to last year, we see an improvement in the FX market.
Would you say that the measures taken at the beginning of the year are proved successful, or the other reasons?
On the basis of the numbers and the improvement that we're seeing, I think we can say that the measures are starting to bear fruits. As I mentioned, the problem has not gone away completely. We are continuing to work with the economic operators and we intervene when it is necessary, when there are peaks in demand and the pressure is especially acute.
The question was in the exchange rate already announced by
Okay. On the range or the level?
Question about the exchange rate approach.
Look, we have a floating exchange rate. The bank doesn't target a level of the exchange rate. We have to let the forces of demand and supply play. Otherwise, it's our credibility as an inflation-targeting central bank, inflation-targeting lab, that will be undermined. So we have to let the forces of the market play. But as mentioned, when necessary, the Banque de Maurice does intervene to alleviate pressures in the market.
I have a question concerning your inflation forecast for 2026. You mentioned the figure of 3.6%. Don't you think it's too optimistic, knowing that year-on-year inflation is hovering over 4% since last July?
So the forecast of 3.6% takes into account a number of factors. It takes into account the inflation that is coming from the import side. And here the news or the reading of the data is in favor of a reduction in inflation. Why? Because we see a decline in global commodity prices. We see also a decline in including fuel. So oil prices have come down significantly and are expected to hover around $60 a barrel for 2026, which will help. We also have domestically that has translated recently into a decrease in the price of MOGAS. So these are the factors that will contribute to lowering inflation. Now, we do see some demand pressures domestically, but all these factors considered, we see inflation coming down to 3.6. Of course, as I mentioned, there are upside risks. The scenario could change drastically. Our forecast could change if, because of an escalation of tariff wars, if because of, for example, geopolitical tensions, oil prices go up internationally, that will have a repercussion on our domestic inflation.
How do you work on the figures, inflation figures for financial year 2025-2026?
You mean for 30th of June 2026? No, this is annual. This is for the year 2026.
A long-standing issue is a question of MIC, which everyone is trying to solve. What is the position of this MIC?
So MIC is not a monetary policy issue, not directly anyway. So maybe if there's a question on monetary policy, I'll take this in priority, and then maybe I can come back to you on MIC.
So have you at least taken stock of the situation? Have you at least taken stock of the situation at MIC, or?
Yes. So MIC is an issue that we follow very closely. Of course, part of it's an issue that needs to be addressed. Our policy credibility and ability to conduct monetary policy depends on resolving the MIC issue in a satisfactory manner. And so it's something that we follow closely, but I cannot give you more details at this point.
It's an important question because there is a recovery process of the funds of the MIC and the rate right now.
So we are indeed in discussions, in talks on how to make this happen. And at this point, I'm not able to give you more details.
Can I have a question from Maurice? A member of the government yesterday said on Radio Plus that the ex-governor of BOM has negotiated more than 20 million when asked to leave BOM. He actually received 5.5 million according to what the Prime Minister said. Do you think that as a governor, the interest of the country through monetary policy should prevail before any personal interest?
Look, the bank has a clear mandate. This is the central bank of the country. The mandate is very clear. It's price stability, balanced economic development. So the mandate of the central bank puts the interest of the country first.
And one question final question from me. The target of inflation is 2 to 5%. So is it the appropriate rate in your opinion, or do you plan to readjust this target range of 2% to 5%?
So the target, you're right, is 2 to 5%, and we are really the objective is that in the medium term we achieve the middle of the range, inflation which is in the middle of the range, which is around 3.5%. So that's our objective. Of course, inflation targets they can change depending on structural changes in the economy. So many central banks around the world, at some point there was a debate as to whether a 2% inflation target is too low in some of the major central banks. So for the time being, I don't see any reason to revisit this range. This is a new monetary policy framework that we have put in place. But if the circumstances call for a change in the target, we will revisit. The concern for us at the Bank of Mauritius is to ensure that we are having the right tools and the framework to implement our monetary policy effectively. And if this calls for a change in the target, we will do it in due course.
Can we have a comment on the efficiency of a monetary framework set up a couple of years ago?
On the efficiency of the
monetary framework set up a few years ago.
So I think the monetary framework that was set up in 2023, you're talking about the inflation targeting light framework, has the merit of being transparent. It has the merit of specifying very clearly what is our target, what are the tools, the operational tools that we are going to use to achieve that target, And the goal is for us to actually anchor inflation expectations. That is fundamental for the country, for price stability, for the country to have price stability. Now, so far we've had a number of shocks since the framework was put in place. We've had a number of shocks, external shocks, including the tariffs. We've had also some shocks that have worked in our favor. As I mentioned earlier, global commodity prices, after being high for a number of months, are actually coming down. So as of now, given that we are actually within our target range for inflation, I would say that the framework is working well in terms of providing us with the guidance and the tools to achieve our inflation target. And we will keep revisiting our tools, our framework, to ensure that it is always helping us to deliver on our price stability mandate.
Do you have figures on the issuance of 7-day bills?
On the issuance of 7-day bills, no, I don't.
I have one last question to clear all the speculation that's fueling online about your mandate here, and you have a post job as a representative of the IMF. There is an issue talking about if you're still without pay, you have been resigned from your former job. So how do you clear this to erase all any speculation about this issue?
So is your question to me, have I resigned from the IMF?
Resign or you are leave without pay?
As of September 2025, I am no longer an official of the IMF.
That's it. Thank you.